makes the one-timer. Now a shot, score, up goal, and Massachusetts takes the lead.
Welcome into another episode of the NewMass Minute. My name's Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, from a hotel room in Richmond, Virginia, getting ready for men's basketball tonight. He is Nathan Strauss, my broadcast partner somewhere in Western Mass, getting ready for a women's basketball game this evening back at home. Nate, good to see you, man. Ready to talk some hockey?
100%. How's the hotel room treating you?
It's snowing here in Richmond, and they don't know what to do, which is my favorite thing. Obviously, you know, I lived here for a while, and if it snows an inch, the whole place shuts down. So it should be interesting tonight.
Meanwhile, we've got like 3 inches of ice outside right
It
now.
was ice again and coming out of the game on Saturday night against
Yeah.
Boston College. Still a great crowd at the Mullen Center, despite that storm. And didn't come away with a win, but let's talk about this series. First of all, we have a special guest coming up on this show. The one and only John Leonard going to join us. You had a conversation with him. Tease that for us. How's he doing?
Yeah, he's doing great, having an all-star level campaign in the AHL with Charlotte this year. And obviously the Leonard family, we know a lot about them. And he had a couple of fantastic years at UMass, and he's engaged now. He's having a life. You know, it's been 5 years since his last season at UMass. Hard to believe, but he still holds a lot of you still see him in the top 10 for a lot of stats at UMass for the offensive prowess he showed in that final season.
He was just amazing on the ice and a real part of helping build this program into what it is today. So excited for you to be able to catch up with him. That's coming up in a couple of minutes. But first, let's dive into the weekend that was. Boston College, number one team of the country, unanimous, pairwise number one. UMass goes to Conti Forum and wins 3-2, beating John's brother Ryan, who's a Hobie Baker candidate in and of itself. Big W for the program, and that launched UMass kind of into the bubble above kind of the cut line for the NCAA tournament with a handful of games remaining. Your takeaways on that victory on Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, UMass played that game about as well as they could. I think for the most part, UMass took the game to BC and played at their tempo. You know, Fowler, the goalie for BC, made a couple of really big saves on breakaways. It could have actually been worse for them. You know, and UMass struck early in the first minute with Jack Musa scoring. And BC ended up getting a goal on the back of a power play goal later on in that period. But for the majority of the first and second period, UMass was the happier team. And then at the very end of the second period, you get that electric goal from Cole O'Hara with 1.1 seconds to go. It was a beautiful goal. It was number one in Hockey East's plays of the week. And from that moment on, I think UMass had that belief that they were going to win. And BC had a shot's edge in the third period, but UMass stood tall. Michael Hrabal was great. He denied Gabe Perreault on a couple breakaways, and UMass added an empty netter, and that was history. So a big win for UMass, and for all the reasons, right? Because now UMass, with a game in hand, with the teams right ahead of them, have a chance to actually jump all the way as high as fifth, depending on how this weekend goes.
This weekend, chill the bill at the Mullen Center. Before we get to that, the return game on Saturday, I think you and I were on the TV broadcast for that one. UMass ultimately loses that contest, but got a goal from Cole O'Hara, who had another great weekend, a couple of goals for him. He now has 42 points on the season with, as you mentioned, handful of games remaining. He has a chance to vault himself into the top 5 in single season individual record holders in terms of points for a UMass player. James Marcoux is up there, Cale Makar, and I think he's 7 behind or 6 behind Makar's 49-point season. He continues to put together a Hobie candidacy that maybe, according to head coach Greg Carvel, has gone under the radar a little bit this year.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the players who are around him as far as the number of points that they have scored this season, and it's a lot of first-round picks. You know, you've got guys like Isaac Howard, first rounder of the Lightning. You've got guys like Jimmy Snuggerud, first rounder of the Blues. Cole O'Hara, after 2 years in college hockey, was trending to be a nice player, not necessarily a dominant player. And what we've seen from him is that he is a dominant player. He's amongst the country's leaders in points, amongst the leaders in assists. We saw what he's capable of too. Just literally the goal that he scored, that second period goal that he scored against BC, is just beautiful. Like he carries the puck out of the neutral zone, makes one little move, goes bar down over a Richter caliber goalie with 1 second to go. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
just
think recognizing like the
great.
situation there too, like,
Yeah.
hey, this is the last, like clock awareness, that kind of stuff. Knowing that he had to get that shot off and just got it in, just under the wire, which was amazing. I think, Coach Carvel was talking about him, and we've got a piece coming up on him for the TV show this week, saying, look, he also blocks shots. He does the dirty work that, don't see a lot of guys maybe in that realm that score a lot of goals, that have the glitz and glamour, but do the things that he's been doing this season, and doing it more like with a kind of a lunch pail approach.
Yeah. Apologies. Someone just gave me a call. Not sure who that was. But
We're recording here.
yeah, come on. Come on, spam number. But yeah, I mean, look, he has the traits that made him a good player the last 2 years, the defensive work, the off puck work, have translated as the offense has come along for him this year. And you were talking about the numbers, as he moves into kind of rarefied air. If he only picks up a point every other game for, the remainder of UMass's games this year, he would be in the top five. But knowing him, right now he's picking up about a point and a half per game. So who knows where he'll end up? And he's someone who deserves a serious look from the Hobie Baker committee just because of what he has done this year and how important he's been to UMass with no Idar Suniev for a lot of the year. But Idar
Yeah.
Suniev also back on Friday.
Great segue. Suniev comes back, and by the way, this is what Carb said after the win at 3-2 on Friday, which included a beautiful empty net goal from Kenny Connors to extend his goal streak to 7 consecutive games, which is a record for a UMass player. He said, "quote, big win for us tonight. I think it's just the next step for our group. We've won 6 of the last 7 and have beaten good teams on the road all year. This is just a really good confidence builder again for our group. We're feeling it." Didn't translate to Saturday, maybe kind of just emotionally drained after that win on Friday, and physically drained as well. But Carv mentioned something there about how UMass has played on the road this year. And that includes going down to UConn the weekend before and winning 5-4. This team's proven that they can play away from the Mullen Center, which I think is certainly something that's not easy to do, especially you go down to BC in a hostile environment. Yeah, I know you do have UMass fans, but they travel well. Winning on the road has been big for this team this year.
Yeah, I mean UMass is an even 500 at home. They're 6-6-1. On the road, they're 8-4 or 8-4-1. And really since that UVM series where they went 0-1-1 on the road, it's been even better than that. This team has picked up wins at BC, Northeastern, and BU, all on the road. Two of those wins were shutout wins. Like this team, they only had a couple of home games at the start of the year. Like you remember how lopsided the schedule was as a result of like the tournaments and all of that. And being able to win on the road is important because, with all honesty, it's very unlikely that UMass gets to host a quarterfinal game. There's the
Right.
possibility that UMass ends up hosting one of the Hockey East first round games. But in an ideal world, UMass is battling for fourth or fifth, just given the way the schedule is shaken up. And so, like last year, when you had to go on the road to Providence, another place that UMass has won on the road this year, being able to win on the road is really important. And the fans made an impact too, I would say. You could really they were audible on the TV broadcast.
Yeah. Michael Robel had 37 saves on Friday. He had 41 saves on Saturday. And that game on Saturday, I think the first period, BC looked like the more aggressive team. They looked like they had a little more energy. And then UMass was able to kind of even the game out, despite the fact that they went down 3-0. They ended up losing 4-1, one being an empty net goal. Um, I just feel like if they could have that first period back, you could change kind of the course of how that game went on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard to sweep teams in Hockey East. BC has not been swept this year. UMass has not been swept this year either. It's really hard to win games on back-to-back nights. And BC came out with a lot of aggression. And I think the shot edge was 20-3 after one period.
Yeah.
It was only a 1-0 lead for BC. But, BC responded the way a top team in the country does. and UMass then evened it out, like you said. But the quality of chances too. Hrabal was really, really good over the course of the two games. He made that penalty shot save, which was really, really big.
Awesome.
The
A
first
full-on
penalty shot,
penalty shot, man. That
the
was
first
great.
penalty shot against UMass since 2020. So it's been a long time. I had to go to the
Appreciate you doing
the
that.
game notes, and I've never seen one.
I
Never been on
mean,
the
he
call
made
for
it
one.
against a guy who's a All-American
Yeah, yeah,
teamer last year. A guy just like is all worldly and
yeah.
gave
So that was huge, and it kept UMass in the game. And at that time, there was some tangible momentum, but it was a chippy game. It wasn't a very disciplined game, and Greg Carvel was honest about that post game. He said BC was the more desperate team. But at
yeah.
the end of the day, like I still think it was a successful weekend for UMass in that if you had taken a win you would have taken a win on the road, regardless of Saturday. I think if it was offered beforehand.
So you mentioned earlier, and we'll talk about this before we get to John Leonard and UNH. Uh, Idar Suniev comes back after missing a stretch since the Merrimack game. He had really been your go-to goal scorer, and still statistically, after missing those games, is at the top of the list. He comes back, and now you've had in his stead. This is what Coach Carr was talking about. When you lose a guy, obviously you hope people step up. Yusa uh, with the hat trick, he's been scoring. Obviously, we talked about O'Hara. Kenny Connors has sort of been revived in the goal scoring ways, and then you kind of reinsert that key piece that had been the focal point of your offense. How does that change or alter things that had actually been going pretty smoothly, without Suniev, and now you get him back?
Yeah, I mean, when Suniev got injured, he had 4 goals in 4 games. He had just been nominated for the Hobie Baker. He was amongst the country's leaders in goals at that time, almost a goal per game before he got hurt. So getting him back is huge just for the ability that he has with the puck. Obviously, he's a great shooter, but also it balances things out and it gives you the ability to change things around. And now you have him and Cam O'Neill back, like we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Greg Carvel said that he thought they had lost both of them for the season. And it turns out that both of them were able to come back. And so now you're looking at one of the deepest forward groups in the country. And, I think they were not managing his minutes at all because Suniev played 20 minutes in each game. But you get, a player who has a totally different skill set out there. And it should help your power play. It should help as far as, managing minutes for other guys. It gives you 3 really, really deep lines, which helps UMass play on the road, I think, as well. So once he gets that goal to kind of officially welcome him back,
Yeah.
it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge for this team.
All right, New Hampshire coming up this weekend, on the road Friday, Chill the Bill on Saturday, white out at the Mullen Center. New Hampshire is at the bottom of the conference. They're 3-12 and 3, 11 and 13 and 4 overall. But does that tell the whole story?
Yeah, it does actually.
All
New
right.
Hampshire had a really good, you had a really good out of conference schedule. And they picked up some big wins. They split a series with Quinnipiac. They swept a couple of ECAC teams. But they have really, really struggled as of late. They've got one win since the first week of January. They had a stretch where they lost 5 games in a row. They've now they have one win and one tie in their last 11 games. They're 1-9-1, and that's a big reason why they haven't found success as far as the Hockey East standings go.
All
They
right. Okay. So let's put on the reasonable fan hat. Okay. Going into the weekend, reasonably speaking, how many points would you expect?
5 or 6. I think as far as UMass has 6 games left. You've got UNH times 2, UMass Lowell times 2, and Maine times 2. This is, I don't want to say a must sweep, but again, UNH has won 1 game in Hockey East play this calendar year, and it was against Vermont, who is another team that's, I believe they're actually the lowest team as far as pairwise goes in Hockey East. So
Mhm.
this is a this is a big series for UMass to really put their foot down, and minimum 4, but maximum 6.
Just after you told me how hard it is to sweep a team. All right.
I know. I
Okay.
know. But good
Okay.
teams
I
get it
got
done,
you.
right?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so the game on Saturday is at the Mullen Center. Reminder, it's a 7 o'clock game. So hopefully everybody gets there and there's no more snowstorms to fight through. Man, I know you had to like what, de-ice your car to
I
get
went to,
to
oh my
did
God,
you go
Jay,
to
I went to
Four
the
Nations?
Four Nations game on Monday, and my car was, so it snowed and then rained and then snowed again.
Familiar. Yep.
So I had about 3 inches of ice on my car wheels, and I had to actually spend like 2 to 3 hours boiling water to go down, de-ice my car bit by bit to get out. It was actually a nightmare.
Did you make it on time?
No, I missed puck drop. I got there at like the 17-minute mark of the first period. So
I mean, that's like, I mean, 17 minutes, off that ticket. That's like, $100
I
of
know it was
hockey.
brutal. It wasn't that much shit, but yeah, I made it. So hopefully the worst of the weather is over. It was, by the way, it was 2 degrees yesterday when we were doing that lacrosse game. So now we just got to deal with the cold. So never a rest.
All right. Good luck this weekend. Good luck tonight, women's basketball, men's basketball back here in Richmond tonight at 6 o'clock. And looking forward to the conversation that you've got with John Leonard coming up here right now. Nate, thanks so much. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. All right, welcome back here to the NewMass Minute. Nathan Strauss here with UMass forward John Leonard. John, it's been a little while since I've gotten to see you. Obviously, you've had a great pro career in the last couple of years. So thank you so much for hopping back on here.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Just first and foremost, take me through what it was like your final year here at UMass. You were leading college hockey in goals. Obviously, then COVID comes down and shuts everything out. And next thing you know, a year later, you're in the NHL and you score your first goal. Just what was that year like for you?
Yeah, it was. We talk about it a lot, but it was a blast. Like I absolutely loved my time at UMass. The teammates we had there were, just awesome people and awesome guys to play with. That I still keep in touch with a bunch of them. And yeah, that last year, it was kind of a blur. Honestly, it happened so quick, and we were playing Northeastern the next day. So I remember we were all sitting at Berkshire Dining Hall there, eating lunch with a bunch of the guys, and I remember we got a text in our team group chat that we were going to have a meeting, at 2 o'clock to kind of go over everything and what was going to happen. So it's kind of crazy, thinking back at it, and yeah, it was a tough way to end, my career at UMass and not get one last run at it.
But then you end up signing with the Sharks, and you get your first goal a couple months later, and it was actually assisted by Mario Ferraro, which was pretty cool. But what do you remember about the moment that you scored your first? I know a lot of guys keep the puck and sort of black out in the moment, but what do you remember from like actually being on the ice?
Yeah, no, it was obviously a really cool moment for me and my family dreamed about scoring a goal in the NHL and something really cool to experience. And yeah, I was on the power play with Mario, and yeah, it was pretty cool how everything worked out.
Yeah, it's always fun to see. And speaking of scoring goals, and also speaking of former UMass players, I know you've been having an outstanding year this year with Charlotte, and that includes a game where you scored against Matt Murray, who's now on an 8-game heater for Milwaukee right now. But just what's it like being in the pros when you come up against the guys who you shared locker rooms with, either at the USHL level or especially at the UMass level?
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Obviously, you want all the success in the world with everyone that you played with, and your close friends that you shared a lot of years with and a lot of memories. Specifically at UMass, and Murray in specific. Obviously, he's a tremendous goalie and an awesome person. Still keep in touch with him, and yeah, it's always fun playing against those guys.
I know there's a lot of good genes that run in your family because obviously your sister Alyssa was a outstanding basketball player up at Castleton and someone who the UMass family knows well. Obviously, UMass fans know you. And then this last weekend, they got a taste of the youngest Leonard brother, Ryan, who's been having just an outstanding year and outstanding last 2 seasons for BC. What's it like for you, watching your little brother, go through the college hockey world and presumably soon to the NHL world as well?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Obviously, I try to watch as many games as I can, and fortunate for us, we played Saturday, Sunday this week, so I got to watch the Friday one, when they were at BC. And I know it was, an awesome weekend for my family to enjoy. And, tons of friends and family were able to go to my parents' house before the game on Saturday and, just enjoy each other's company. And, it's obviously a lot of fun watching him play.
When you think back to your time here at UMass, obviously you were part of the first Frozen Four team, and then you were part of the whole cycle too, the 2 years lead or the year leading up to that as well. What do you have a particular game or goal that you scored that really stands out in your mind?
I think my favorite game at UMass was the national championship or the national semifinal game against Denver. I think a lot of guys would agree with that one. Just the atmosphere as a whole. We had that 5-minute power play in the first. They had an early power play as well, and just the overtime goal, like when Mark scored, just all the emotions in the world. Just something I'll never forget, and obviously just a really fun moment and a really fun game to be a part of.
Obviously, Coach Carville just hit 250 career wins, and he's close to the all-time record for wins at UMass. I'm just curious, from your experience with him, what was he like to play under as a coach?
Yeah, no, he's an awesome coach. He expects a lot out of guys, and that's what makes him such a good coach. Is he wants the best for each and every person. He wants to win each and every game. He coaches a very fun style where it's tight checking, fast pace, and that's kind of the game we play today is obviously so fast, and he does a really good job with that, and I had a lot of fun playing for him.
Is there a particular trip that you've had either in the NHL or the AHL that really stands out to you, either from a venue perspective or like something that happened on the ice for you?
I don't know if there's exactly one place in particular. I think that's one of the really cool things about playing, and you get to experience so many different cities, and going to different restaurants and all the little things that are really cool that I definitely don't take for granted, being able to see all those places.
Going back to that team in 2019, 2020, I was just having a conversation with someone where I said that the momentum that that team had going into what would have been the Hockey East tournament, I think that team would have made a real run at a national championship. I know you just talked about kind of what it was like when obviously COVID hit and the team, the season was ended. But having been to the Frozen Four, the national championship game the previous year, do you think that that team was capable of kind of making a run and going all the way?
I really do. Yeah, I think obviously you talk about experience. I think experience is such a huge thing, and not to say that that we didn't have a chance or deserve to be there that first year, but obviously we had a heck of a team and an awesome group. But to be able to go into that second time, and obviously we were going to make the tournament regardless of what happened in that hockey's tournament, and I think we had just had an awesome group, and it stings a little bit that we weren't able to get that one last run, but I think we would have had a really good shot. Obviously, you don't know what would have happened, during the games, but I do think we would have had a really good chance.
Take me back to your time as well at Cathedral. I know it's now Pope Francis, the name change and all, but what do you remember playing, early high school hockey before you started billeting out in Green Bay?
Yeah, those were some of the best times, honestly, playing high school hockey with your best friends from growing up, and still my best friends and closest buddies to this day. And we talk about it all the time, and we lost in the semifinals my last year, and yeah, but it was a blast. Like, there's nothing that beats playing with your childhood buddies, and playing for your hometown team. Cathedral was an awesome place, and I know my brother got to experience it too. Like you said, it got changed to Pope Francis, but just an awesome group of people that are a part of that team and a part of that school, and something I'll forever be grateful for.
I think I saw too that you got engaged in this last year. So is that you to Danny, who played soccer rather at UMass? Just
Yeah.
how important was your UMass experience, not just for the hockey side of things, but also like where you're at in life as a person.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously being able to meet her and now we're engaged and we're obviously really looking forward to the wedding and then everything after and yeah, it's obviously one of the greatest gifts to come out of UMass for sure.
Well, congratulations. Last question for you. When you were here in the pre-COVID world, there were some of the biggest student crowds at UMass. People were lining up before games to get in. And there are some really important home games coming up for UMass in the next couple of weeks. You've got UNH, UMass Lowell, and then two with Benny Barr in Maine. Just as a former player, how important is having, a packed student section? And how much does it influence, the energy coming right out of the gate?
Yeah, no, I think it's obviously the best part of college hockey. The fans and the atmosphere and the students. It's the coolest thing about college hockey. You talk about crowds at UMass and you brought up Benny Barr. Like playing at Maine was one of the coolest places to go to, and the student section that they had was awesome. And Hockey East is really fortunate in that way that every rink's like that, and students are passionate about their team, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of. I remember, we'd go to the rink at 4:15, 4:30 for games at home, and there was already be students lining up outside Mullins, which always brought us chills when we were kind of pulling up to the parking lot area, and something that was really cool about UMass for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on an all-star caliber season so far. Best of luck to you and the boys with Charlotte, and hope to catch up with you at some point in the future.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you.
I'll talk to you next time on the NewMass Minute.